Om Namo Narayana, Jai Swami Narayana, Namaste. We're finishing up with the second half of chapter 16 today, the description of Jambudvipa, and we're starting with verse 16. Yep, for a moment I was like, 16? Is this chapter 16? Yep, we're in sync. On the lower slopes of Mandara Mountain is a mango tree named Devakutta. It is 8,800 miles high. Mangoes as big as mountain peaks and as sweet as nectar fall from the top of this tree for the enjoyment of all those in heaven. When all those solid fruits fall from such a height, they break, and the sweet, fragrant juice within them flows out and becomes increasingly more fragrant as it mixes with other scents. The juice cascades from the mountain in waterfalls and becomes a river called Arunoda, which flows pleasantly through the eastern side of Lavrata. The pious wives of the Yakshas act as personal maidservants to assist Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva. Because they drink the water of the river Arunoda, their bodies become fragrant, and as the air carries away that fragrance, it perfumes the entire atmosphere for about 80 miles all around. Similarly, the fruits of the jambu tree, which are full of pulp and have very small seeds, fall from the great height and break to pieces. Those fruits are the size of elephants, and the juice gliding from them becomes a river named Jambunadi. This river falls a distance of about 80,000 miles from the summit of Mera Mandara Mountain to the southern side of Lavrata, and floods the entire land of Lavrata with juice. The mud on both sides of the river Jambunadi, being moistened by the flowing juice and then dried by the air and the sunshine, produces huge quantities of gold called Jambunada. The denizens of heaven use this gold for various kinds of ornaments. Therefore, all the inhabitants of the heavenly planets and their youthful wives are fully decorated with golden helmets, bangles, and belts, and thus they enjoy life. On the side of Suparashva mountain stands a big tree called Mahakadama, which is very celebrated. From the hollows of this tree flow 5 rivers of honey. This flowing honey falls incessantly from the top of the mountain and flows all around Vedavyasa, beginning from the western side. Thus the whole land is saturated with the pleasing fragrance. The air carrying the scent from the mouths of those who drink that honey perfumes the land for 100 yojanas all around. Similarly, on Kumuda mountain there is a great banyan tree, which is called Shatavasha because it has 100 main branches. From those branches come many roots, from which many rivers are flowing. These rivers flow down from the top of the mountain to the northern side of Lavrata for the benefit of those who live there. Because of these flowing rivers, all the people have ample supplies of milk, yogurt, honey, clarified butter, molasses, food grains, clothes, bedding, sitting places, and ornaments. All the objects they desire are sufficiently supplied for their prosperity, and therefore they are very happy. The residents of the material world who enjoy the products of these flowing rivers have no wrinkles on their bodies and no gray hair. They never feel fatigue, and perspiration does not give their bodies a bad odor. They are not affected by old age, disease, or untimely death. They do not suffer from chilly cold or scorching heat, nor do their bodies lose their luster. They all live very happily, without anxieties, until death. There are other mountains, beautifully arranged around the foot of Mount Meru, like the filaments around the whorl of a lotus flower. Their names are Karanga, Kurara, Kusumba, Vaikanka, Trikuta, Shishira, Pataanga, Rukaka, Nishada, Sinivasha, Kapala, Shanka, Vaidura, Jarudi, Hamsa, Risabha, Naga, Kalanjara, and Narada. On the eastern side of Sumeru mountain are 2 mountains named Jastara and Devakutta, which extend to the north and south for 144,000 miles. Similarly, on the western side of the mountain are 2 mountains named Pavana and Parayatra, which also extend north and south for the same distance. On the southern side of the mountain are 2 mountains named Kailasa and Karavira, which extend east and west for about 144,000 miles, and on the northern side of Sumeru, extending for the same distance east and west, are two mountains named Trishringa and Makara. The width and height of these mountains is about 16,000 miles. Sumeru, a mountain of solid gold shining as brilliantly as fire, is surrounded by these 8 mountains. In the middle of the summit of Meru is the township of Lord Brahma. Each of its 4 sides is calculated to extend to about 80 million miles. It is made entirely of gold, and therefore learned scholars and sages call it Shatakambi. Surrounding Brahmapuri in all directions are the residences of the 8 principal governors of the planetary systems, beginning with King Indra. These abodes are similar to Brahmapuri, but are 1/4 the size. And thus ends Chapter 16. Now, as I mentioned in my earlier video, I read all these things in miles. They are actually written in yojanas, but as I said, given we live in a world of kilometers and miles, I figured no one would know what a yojana was. So I read the little bit that gives the miles, and when it doesn't, I've been hitting my calculator and translating. I figure it's probably really rough. I basically multiply everything by 8 and just pray for the right ending. So please ignore that. No, that's not a translation error. That's just sort of me trying to make it a little clearer. As I was reading this, I had a feeling of the Garden of Eden, even though I don't believe in the Garden of Eden. It was kind of interesting how it sort of describes something like that. There's no death, there's no old age, there's no gray hair. I mean, I don't have gray hair either because hair dye. I believe hair dye keeps age away. Keeps my gray hair away. And anyways, it's very much like a Garden of Eden. And for those who may say that religious texts borrow from others, here is a look of one text that looks similar to another one. And it is known that the Garden of Eden had all the animals and Adam and Eve and Lilith and Steve and whatever story you want to believe, but there was actually beings outside of the Garden of Eden. So that wasn't it. There's other beings. Clearly says here that we have a world of other beings. If you have any thoughts or any comments or anything else, please let me know down below. I'm going to bring the video here to a close. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.